Yeah.
Dude, you're sick. Like, your videography is crazy.
Thank you.
I'm only just realizing it.
Yeah.
I know this sounds kind of crazy, but like, I mean, if we cover your rent in San Diego,
Yeah.
would you come down to Minneapolis and come work with us?
If you cover my rent in San Diego, I'll be here in a week and a half.
Bro. Bro, are you serious?
Yeah. To give you some context, a little over a year ago, with only 700 subscribers, I left my job at a video production company to pursue making YouTube full-time. And in that year, I went from $40,000 in savings to $10,000 in credit card debt. Actually, just a month or two ago, I wasn't even able to pay rent. Last day in the apartment, had a good fucking run, man. It was big. But then I met this guy, Nikhil. Some of you might know him as Captain Sinbad. I happened to be one of his coaching clients a while back.
You should make the character arc as good as possible.
Oh, okay. And now, with him in Minnesota, I'm working and studying the game of YouTube. Pretty fucking awesome, right?
So you really don't know what you're gonna learn until you get to the end. There's no way to predict what will happen.
But this sequence of events wasn't an accident, and as crazy as it sounds, I truly believe that I forced my life to come together to create this insane opportunity. Now, did I know that it was going to turn out like this? Absolutely not. But what I did know was that I wasn't going to wait for something to happen in the meantime. Across the internet, there are more than a few definitions of change. And after a little bit of thinking, here's mine. The act of becoming different in some essential way, usually in the spirit of upgrading for the better. And according to Winston Churchill, to improve is to change, and to be perfect is to change often. Meaning that the key to perfection, the key to the highest version of yourself, is to constantly upgrade. So then the question becomes, how do we do that? How do we maintain that? And the answer that's worked for me is that if your environment is a reflection of you, then force a better reflection, a better version of you by curating your environment. In other words, environment hacking. So in today's video, I do want to share with you my discoveries and the actionables within that idea to help you force your life to drastically improve through frequent and incredible changes. Here's a story. There once was a panda and a tiny dragon traveling together. The panda asked the dragon, "What's more important, the journey or the destination?" The dragon answered, "Neither, it's the company." And the way that I interpreted this was that there are definitely parts of your journey that you're going to have to face alone. But you might never reach the destination without the people that you meet along the way. Usually this comes in the form of some sort of brotherhood or mentorship, but I always found it difficult to meet those sorts of people. That is until I started paying for coaches and events that were relevant to whatever I was aiming for. A very straightforward example of this in my own life is the relationship that I've built with Nikhil.
Story time, pillow talk, but also should be a fun conversation.
In the summer of 2022, I remember distinctly feeling that I needed to improve my YouTube videos drastically in a very certain way. And I knew that I didn't have that knowledge and wasn't going to find it on my own. And that wasn't letting me find the kind of success that I wanted to have on the platform. So I looked around all of YouTube and ended up on Captain Sinbad. And in those 3 months that I spent under Nikhil's guidance, I learned so many incredible lessons, not just about YouTube, but also about life. It wasn't just that I had shifted into whole new perspectives, but my level of awareness for recognizing opportunities in those two umbrellas of YouTube and life had just skyrocketed. I could notice myself actively thinking and understanding the world around me on a higher level. After that, I managed to stay in contact with Nikhil for the coming months until I finally came to Minnesota to work with him. And my growth alongside of people like Nikhil, like his business partner and friend Manoj, has been absolutely tremendous. I've been forced to better articulate my speech and my thoughts. I've become a better writer. I have deeper knowledge on subjects like nutrition and energy management, running a digital business. The list really just goes on. Honestly, My life finally feels like it's opening up to all of its possibilities. But that only happened because I put my money where my mouth was and made it the intention to meet people further along on a similar journey. Another thing that I genuinely believe has been one of the best decisions I've ever made is building out my YouTube setup. Now for one of what I would consider the sadder parts of moving to Minnesota is breaking down my home built studio. And I say that because I think having a studio, having a creative workspace is a really cool physical representation of where you're at, of what season in life that you're in. So breaking it down kind of hits hard for me. And each iteration of my setup, each recreation of my environment helped maintain a sharper version of myself. An application of this was how with every setup, I kept out less and less camera gear and only the pieces that I use the most, which made sure I maximized my creativity, my effectiveness with every piece of equipment. I somehow managed to navigate myself into an essentialist mindset. And because of that, every production that I made, whether it was for YouTube, a client, freelance, whatever, was exponentially better. And then that essentialist mindset infiltrated every other area of my life. In any situation, I was able to identify and execute on the highest leverage activities towards my goals. On top of that, because I had optimized my setup, there was less and less friction about getting to work. The second half to this is to change your location completely. When I moved out to Minneapolis, pretty much instantly, I remember on that plane drowning in uncertainty. Not just because my life was going to change completely, but because I didn't know who I was going to become. How was I going to adapt and grow while everything around me was quite literally an unknown? Living with Nikhil and Manoj, becoming familiar with a new city, building new relationships and a network from zero. But despite all of that, I do think there is a true beauty in this kind of shift. It's that you have two options. You can either let it overwhelm you, or you can let it invigorate you. I say choose the second. Fall in love with rapid change, because ever since I've moved out here to Minneapolis, I've been forced to initiate every action, whether that's small talk with a stranger or exploring new locations solo. And what that has done for me is that it's developed a higher level of boldness. I can feel a deeper confidence to just go do or go after whatever I want. What it really comes down to is that you're forced to massively build your life experience and mature. There's no going back. I can't just run back to San Diego. It really is a forced evolution through novelty. So if you have the opportunity, if you have the resources to make this kind of shift, take it. Dan Koh, in one of his recent videos, speaks on how social media is virtual reality. Virtual reality is already here. Your social media is your public resume. It's a reflection of who you are to the outside world, from who you follow to whatever content that you post. Now, for most people, it's probably a negative. But if you can curate your virtual environment, it is an incredible positive. I actually believe that your social media is the first layer of your environment, but I've kept it last on this video because it's the hardest to enact upon. But let me show you how I do it. I've set a few rules when it comes to social media. I only have YouTube and Instagram, but it'll apply to any platform. The rules were actually inspired by Bedros Keuilian when he said, he will not go to someone's wedding unless he has spoken to them within the last year. What he's basically saying is that he'll only act on the relationships that hold dear value or are relevant to him today. And I think you should apply that sentiment to social media. So with that being said, the first rule is that I will only follow people that are family, close friends that I've spent years with, or work relationships. Every other relationship in your life does not matter, so on social media, you shouldn't be spending energy on them either. The second rule is that I will only follow pages that provide consistent value to me through either inspiration, education, or exhilaration. A great example for me is Ellis Van Jason's page. I am completely inspired by how he includes his FPV in filmmaking. I learned how to fly FPV drones better through his posts. And lastly, I'm always blown away every time this man posts. His experiences and opportunities are insane. So I hope to make them my opportunities as well. The last rule is that instead of listening to music, I listen to podcasts, educational YouTube videos, or I'll just sit in silence. This last one is the one that's changed my life the most. So now every time that I'm on social media, I almost never find myself mindlessly scrolling. I genuinely enjoy being on my phone. Funnily enough, the content I consume actually will send me right back to productive work. Let me give you an example. Just the other day, I was scrolling through Instagram and there's this page I follow called Mentality. I ran into one of their posts. It said, every day that you delay the work is every day that your mother has to work. And you best believe the moment I fucking saw that, I went straight back to work. There was no question about it. The rest of the day was incredibly productive. Now apply that small interaction with social media to everyday life. It'll begin to shape the actions that you take. It's going to shape your perspectives and your character traits. Now, because I've curated my social media, it conditions me, it educates me and inspires me towards actualizing my aspirations. I've essentially forced my social media, my virtual environment, to facilitate some better version of me at all times, and that's incredibly powerful. So remember, social media can either be your worst enemy or your greatest ally. Make it your greatest ally. So once again, know that your environment is a reflection of you, meaning that you can create a better reflection, force a better version of you by changing your environment. Your environment is synonymous with your identity. So every change, every upgrade that you make in your environment is every upgrade that you make within yourself. Don't be afraid to pursue change often, to further drag the greatest possibilities and versions of yourself into your reality. And with that being said, to those of us that not only want to curate our environments, but also our whole realities through intentional change, it's time to skyrocket.